Life is full of projects, whether it's something you do at home or something you do at work. And one of the skills students will need in order to complete projects is project management. But what exactly is project management? Well, project management begins with goal setting based on the big picture idea of what you want to accomplish. Here, you need to have a clear sense of where you are going and what it will look like when you are finished. It also involves breaking the project down into tasks and subtasks with clear deadlines. Here, you often visualize each part of the task, creating a bridge between the abstract ideas and concrete actions you will take. And in this phase, you also develop a plan of action and select your tools and materials. And if you're working collaboratively, you often divide up the roles and responsibilities. Next, you choose and implement specific strategies. And as this occurs, you begin to monitor your progress. You'll likely run into barriers, which will force you to problem solve and experiment. You might even need to pivot and re-examine your original goals. Now, when students learn the project management process, they grow into self-directed learners capable of being self-starters and self-managers.
The video you just watched discussed the entire project management process very briefly, and those are the things and those are the phases you will have to go through as you do your project in my class. Your project requires a plan, and planning is actually very much different from the planning stage is different from the initiation stage, and you will see the difference later on. You might think that they're the same. Now, the five phases or the five steps in the project management process includes initiation or initiating, planning, executing or implementation, monitoring and controlling, and closing. We'll go through each step. The first step in the project management process is initiation. Okay, so how do we do project initiation? Here, the project objective or the need is identified first. This can either be the business problem or the opportunity that you see for you to decide on putting up that kind of project. You start with a feasibility study to investigate whether each option addresses the project objective. In a final recommendation is determined. Certain issues like can we do the project or the justification such as should we do the project are being addressed. Once the recommended solution is approved, a project is initiated to deliver the approved solution and a project manager is appointed. The major deliverables in the participating work groups are identified or you form the team. The project team begins to work in shape and approval is then sought by the project manager to move into the detailed planning phase. Therefore, the project initiation phase is different from the project planning phase. Now, what documents do you need in this particular phase? You need your draft project concept proposals. In our case, we don't have to do the feasibility study. We just have to propose different concept proposals as I have required from as I will be requiring from you in this module. And you will form your team. Of course, you identify your project manager also in this module. And you will be creating a document such as the project charter and the work WBS, work breakdown structure. The next step in the project management plan is project planning. And what you do here are the drafts of your project management plan, your management plans for each functional area, and the ongoing project plan updates. What do you do? What do you exactly do in project planning? In this step, the team identifies the work to be done, and the project's tasks and resource requirements are identified along with a strategy for producing them. That's why you have your PMP, Project Management Plan. This is also referred to as the scope management. A project plan is created outlining the activities, the tasks, the dependencies, and timeframes. And this is also where the project manager coordinates the preparation of a project budget by providing cost estimates for the labor, the equipment, and material costs. When you're doing later on your cost estimation, please hindi nyo siya pagtanglawan sa langit tapos ara na dahil ang cost nyo. You have to make sure that you study the market and really check how much will be the expenses, your estimated expenses of your project. It has to be the expenses or the cost that you have written down should be realistic. Now, what is the budget for? The budget is used to monitor and control cost expenditure. So that will be your baseline. Okay, dapat amo lang gini siya ang gastuhon ta or up to this much only during the project implementation. So once the project team has identified the work, you and prepared the schedule and estimated the cost. Now, the three fundamental components of the project planning process are now complete. So, prepare the schedule, estimate the costs, and identify the work. Amo ni ang pinaka-importante ng mga components of the planning process. So, this is now an excellent time to identify and try to deal with anything that might pose a threat to the successful completion of the project. Ano ang pwede nga makahatag problema sa inyo when you're doing the project? You try to identify those things, and this is what you call risk management. So that's still part of your project management plan. As I have said, medyo damo ni siya ang PMP and medyo lagwig ni siya. That's why we're going to be devoting a lot of our time on developing the project plan pa lang. And this is also a good time in this particular phase or step to identify kung sino ang project stakeholders and establish a communication plan describing the information needed and the delivery method to be used to keep the stakeholders informed. The stakeholders may refer to the people outside and inside the organization. Now, when you are doing your project, please see to it that when you identify the communication line and communication plan, dapat part sina ang mga platforms wherein you can communicate. In our project, in the class project, for example, we are all doing this online, and many of you are being separated by location or by geography. So, the question now is when you're working with your group members, how do you communicate with them? Many of you may belong to a certain category, but then base in your group may iban na ang belong sa another category like category 1, category 2, category 3 when it comes to internet connectivity. And it will be you're lucky if you belong to category 3 tanan. But what if may ara ka mo halin sa category 2 or category 1? You have to be conscious about it kay base sila they want to communicate with you, they want to help you in your project, but they cannot do that because the platform that you have selected in your communication is not accessible to them. So, basi hindi pwede ang Zoom, basi hindi pwede ang Google, basi what they can only access is Facebook or maybe calls and texts. You also have to be very specific kung saan o kamo yung meet and how frequent. Kay that can also potentially create some conflicts later. Kay what if babe, sige ka lang yung galit patawag sa meeting and they are not informed. Okay? Dapat kabalo ka mo ya kay this can also help you lessen the problems in your group or in your team. So the communication management plan should be able to identify the platforms or the modes of communicating with each other and the frequency of the communication, the communication channels I meant. Finally, you will want to document a quality plan providing quality targets, assurance, and control measures along with an acceptance plan. Remember what I said? Dapat kabalo ka what makes a project acceptable and successful. You should know, you should be able to list it down. Okay, that will also serve as your parameter nga, okay, amo ni siyang sundon ta because amo ni ang gusto tang quality for our project. Listing the criteria to be met to gain customer acceptance. At this point, the project would have been planned in detail and is now ready to be executed. Once you're done with this, we go now to the next step, which is the execution. So the next is the execution phase, and this is where the tasks are being performed already. And you also do monitoring and controlling of the performance of the task. Now, why do we do monitoring and controlling at this stage when it could be done in the next stage? Okay. Not all of the projects are done and finished in an hour or in a day. There are projects that take years or months or months or days and weeks to finish. And because of that, it's very important to always monitor the performances and make sure that the project is in the right track. So monitoring and controlling can happen together with the execution of the project. So the execution phase is when people are already carrying out the task and progress information is being reported through regular team meetings. The project manager uses this information to maintain control over the direction of the project by comparing the progress reports with the project plan to make sure or to measure the performance of the project activities and then to take corrective actions as needed. So kung galihis sa plano, the first thing that you can do is to bring back the project on course or to return it to the original plan. If that cannot happen, then the team should record the variation or the changes from the original plan and record and publish modifications to the plan. So, amo na siya ang obrahon ta. Kay, although we have laid down the plans, but there are things, as I have said, things you can't control. So, sometimes, these things will push you to make decisions or changes or modifications on the original plan. But when you do that, when you change the plan, make sure that you also record the changes. So what are the documents that you need to prepare in this particular phase? You need the project management plan, and because you are going to be maybe dealing with people outside the group, governments, for example, or offices, you also need permits or letters. You need to submit letters and get their approval that you're going to be doing this. The next phase is the monitoring and controlling phase. So this is when the project performance is measured against the project plan. So you check if it can you check whether it meets the plan requirements or does it differ from the plan. If it meets the plan requirements, okay, you continue as planned. If it's different from what you have planned, then you take corrective actions and identify the causes. Nga nag-amuni, ano ayhan ang rason why naglain or nag-deviate siya from the plan. And if you don't have a choice, as I have mentioned, wala kaya choice, kinala mo siya i-change, you have to amend the plan. Okay? It's not just in this area ang i-change mo. Maybe if you change one, you change all. So you have to look at the consequences of changing one thing. So you change your execution of the plan. So this phase occurs concurrently and parallel to the project execution phase. So gadulungan sila. The project manager must perform sufficient monitoring and control to ensure that the project deliverables are produced on time, on budget, and to sufficient quality. The bulk of a project manager's time in the project monitoring phase will be actually spent on a process called earned value analysis. So this is the report that you're going to be submitting to me. So in this system, the project manager calculates the project status from two standpoints, schedule and cost. So how do you monitor? Duwa lang lang tawon mo. If it's right on schedule or if it's within the cost. It can be done at any time and can give you excellent advance warning of the project going astray. So through the earned value analysis report, balaan mo siya kung it's within the schedule and if it's within the budget. Kung gasubra siya or go away siya sa schedule, or if it's deviating from the schedule and it's going beyond the budget, the earned value analysis report will tell you that that is happening. Okay, assuming that you've already done the project or implemented the project, hindi ka lang yan mahalin. You have to close the project. So you have the project closure phase. How do you know that your project is done or has been performed? Tanan nga deliverables, tanan nga ulubrahon mo, na meet mo. Okay, ang exit criteria are met. There's a transfer of deliverables to customer and support functions. So this is for businesses. And BIR report records recommendations and lessons learned for future projects. Okay, Mara, ginaya per me lessons learned. Uh, Even in your case, in your portfolio, I will have to ask you, each member, to share the things that you have learned from the entire project. So the emphasis here is on releasing the final deliverable to the customer or to the stakeholder or to whoever who asked you to do the project. And you hand over the project documentation to the business or to me in our case, and you terminate supplier contracts if in case there are contracts, releasing project resources, and communicating the closure of the project to all stakeholders. So the second learning task you're going to be doing, again, see the canvas for details, is poster making. What is this all about? You have to check your Canvas account.